Your Honor, the evidence clearly shows my client acted in self-defense.
Is that so, young man? Interesting.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into a story that really grips you from the very first breath. It's a narrative so intense it honestly reads like the most captivating thriller you've ever encountered. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, if you will, a city where justice is, well, it's basically a commodity, where power and profit are so deeply entwined with the legal system that it just devours lives, swallowing hope whole. And then, against this suffocating backdrop, picture a lone figure. A 16-year-old kid. He's wearing this thrift store suit that's clearly way too big for him, yet carrying a mind so sharp, so impossibly brilliant. It becomes the most formidable weapon against this seemingly insurmountable corruption. This isn't just a story, it's really a testament to the raw, visceral fight for what's right when everything and, everyone is stacked against you.
What's truly compelling here as we start to unravel the layers of this narrative is how one individual's sheer will, their unyielding resolve, can actually begin to expose the deep fissures within a system that appears utterly impenetrable. We're not talking about just a few isolated bad actors here. This story lays bare a sprawling network of deeply rooted systemic issues that actually profit from injustice. It's kind of a chilling reminder that sometimes the most profound revelations, well, they come from the most unexpected places.
Absolutely. Our journey today through this incredible story, which unfolds with the urgency and, the precision of a high-stakes legal drama, is a deep dive into the harrowing, astonishing, and ultimately inspiring journey of Jamal Carter. Our mission, really, is to excavate the precise mechanisms of corruption that are laid bare in this narrative. We want to understand the sheer, almost superhuman resilience required to fight it, and, critically, to grasp the devastatingly high cost of seeking justice against such overwhelming odds. For you, the listener, we want to extract those profound aha moments of understanding. How deep the rabbit hole of systemic corruption can really go, what it truly means to fight for your very soul, and the profound ripple effects of such a battle. Okay, so the fuse. The fuse of this entire explosive conflict is lit in a courtroom, a place usually synonymous with order and law, right? But in this story, it becomes this crucible for raw, visceral injustice. We meet Jamal Carter, barely a man, just a teenager standing there. You can almost feel the oppressive humidity of that southern courtroom, sweat beading on his forehead. Every fiber of his being is just taut with dread as he watches his older brother, Darius, get handed a sentence that basically means his life is over, life without parole, for a crime he emphatically did not commit. It's a moment that would shatter most people, reduce them to despair. But for Jamal, it's not an ending. It's the spark of an unyielding defiance, the moment a quiet boy transforms into this unlikely warrior.
Yeah, and what's particularly chilling about this opening scene isn't just the harshness of the verdict itself, it's the almost theatrical display of power and contempt by those in authority. Judge Holt, described as this colossal figure, a mountain of a man, he doesn't just deliver the sentence. The narrative says he smirks from the bench, his lips curling like he'd won some sick game.
Wow.
And the all-white jury, they don't just deliver a verdict, they snicker. It adds this whole other layer of cruelty. Then comes the deafening slam of the gavel, immediately followed by Holt's booming, mocking laugh. It echoes through the courtroom. It feels designed, really, to humiliate and break Jamal. The narrative explicitly states that this laugh would haunt Jamal forever. It sliced through every thought, turning into a jagged blade that night. It's more than just sound. It's a psychological
trigger.
An indelible wound that, paradoxically, actually solidifies his resolve and sets him on this solitary, incredibly perilous path.
And what's immediately striking is that the narrative is just unsparing in its indictment. This isn't just about one malevolent judge. The story directly calls out a system that saw black skin as a guilty verdict. It wasn't some unfortunate mistake or an isolated incident. It was by design, a deliberate function of the system.
Exactly.
That booming, derisive laugh didn't break Jamal's spirit. It actually forged him anew. That night, sleep was impossible for him, right? The echo of that laugh rattling in his skull. The image of his brother, Darius, just 22, now locked away in a concrete tomb 40 miles outside their crumbling southern city, just replaying endlessly in his mind.
Every detail. The jury's smirks, the gavel's crack, it all fueled his internal fire.
You can picture him, fists clenched under his thin blanket. He knew with absolute certainty that he couldn't let that laugh, that blatant injustice, be the final word.
What makes Jamal's response so astonishing, so truly remarkable, is the secret weapon he brought to this fight. A weapon nobody, not even his own family, knew he possessed.
Which is just incredible in itself.
It is. A photographic memory. The source describes him as someone who had memorized every law book in the library. And this wasn't just some casual intellectual curiosity or a fleeting hobby. He had spent literally years hunched over library tables memorizing legal codes while other teens chased footballs or girls.
Years. Think about that. A quiet, unassuming teenager dedicating years of his life to absorbing complex legal texts, understanding statutes, precedents, procedures, all without anyone knowing.
It's an incredible, almost unbelievable level of foresight and dedication to a skill he wouldn't even realize the full power of until this exact terrible moment.
You're right. It's truly incredible. And the moment Darius is sentenced, Jamal immediately puts that weapon, that painstakingly acquired knowledge, to its ultimate use. By sunrise the very next day, he's at the kitchen table, chipped mug of cold coffee beside him, literally surrounded by Darius's case files. And he hadn't just obtained them through official channels, had he?
No. He'd swiped them from the public defender's office 2 weeks prior, which is a brilliant and incredibly audacious move in itself. He'd meticulously observed the overworked public defender, waited for the precise moment during a lunch break when the lawyer left his desk unguarded, slipped in and out unnoticed.
Wow. It just speaks volumes about his immediate, resourceful, and deeply proactive approach. He wasn't waiting for permission.
Not at all. And his photographic memory, honed over all those years, acted like this precise laser. Cutting through the chaos of those coffee-stained, dog-eared papers that represented Darius's case, he found the arrest report detailing Darius's alleged robbery of a gas station on Peach Street. Remember, a twitchy white cashier swore Darius pulled the trigger. But Jamal, with his encyclopedic recall of every detail, immediately spotted the first crucial piece of the puzzle, a foundational discrepancy.
The timestamp.
Exactly. The timestamps didn't line up. The robbery occurred at 9:28 p.m., but another piece of documentation placed Darius miles away at 9:32 p.m. This initial, seemingly minor inconsistency, which, let's be honest, might have been overlooked by an ordinary lawyer drowning in paperwork,
Easily.
became his precise entry point into unraveling the entire meticulously constructed case against his brother.
What this incident truly embodies, if we kind of look at the broader implications, it's the idea that knowledge, deep, actionable, meticulously acquired knowledge, can be the single most potent weapon against oppressive systems, even when it's wielded by an unexpected and, frankly, unlikely hand, a 16-year-old kid.
He didn't just spot a detail. He understood its legal implications immediately. He spent that entire morning fueled by cold coffee and this burning resolve drafting a new appeal. His hands trembled, the narrative says, as he typed on a borrowed laptop from his kind neighbor, Miss Tasha. He wasn't just venting emotion. He was citing specific legal grounds.
Right, ineffective counsel.
Exactly. Referring to Darius's public defender, arguing his performance was so inadequate it deprived Darius of a fair trial. He cited procedural errors, those unseen cracks. And he included new evidence. That grainy photo from Darius's phone, clearly time-stamped, placing him at a barbershop 3 miles away when the robbery supposedly happened.
And he knew he was on the clock, right?
Absolutely. He knew he had to act fast.
Right.
He was already on day 2 of a critical 30-day filing window, operating strictly under state law section 32 of the state code.
But his very first step into the formal legal system, armed with this meticulously prepared appeal, it was immediately met with the system's entrenched gatekeepers.
Yeah, these individuals, often seemingly minor figures, are actually the first line of defense, almost designed to repel anyone challenging the established authority. He marches to the courthouse, a building described as looming like a fortress, its interior smelling oppressively of mildew and power. He approaches the clerk's desk, this formidable wooden barrier manned by Doris, a middle-aged white woman with pinched lips. He confidently cites State Law, Section 32, subsection B, explaining his unequivocal right to file the appeal, a direct, calm assertion of his legal standing.
And Doris's response was, well, it wasn't just dismissive, was it? It was utterly chilling and immediate.
Completely. Her tone dripped venom as she retorted, "Boy, you can't just waltz in here with that mess. You a lawyer."
That word boy.
It felt to Jamal like a slap, just loaded with condescension and racial prejudice. She shoved the carefully prepared envelope back at him, dismissing it as trash from kids, then curtly told him to get a real attorney or get out.
Calculated, dehumanizing, designed to make him feel small and powerless right out of the gate.
And the contempt only escalated from there. A second clerk, a balding man with a lazy eye, ambles over snorting, "What's this nonsense?" He snatches the papers from Jamal's hand, skims them with his dismissive glance, chuckles derisively, and then, with infuriating casualness, tosses them into a nearby waste bin.
Throws them away.
Throws them away. And smears. Hell, I love this. Some black kid thinks he's Perry Mason. It was a public, undeniable display of contempt, racism, and a blatant disregard for legal process, all unfolding right there.
So when we talk about what this truly means for someone like Jamal, it's starkly clear. Every single step on this path to justice isn't just a challenge against the ultimate injustice of Darius's conviction, but a constant, grinding battle against these petty, yet incredibly effective gatekeepers. These individuals are designed to wear you down, break your spirit before you even reach the real fight.
And yet, despite his stomach nodding with anxiety and his blood boiling with indignation, Jamal held his ground. He didn't just react emotionally. He knew the rules. He knew the law. He calmly stated, "You're breaking the law. I'll report you to the state bar," and even cited Article 9 state constitution, referencing his due process rights, his fundamental right to fair treatment.
And the response?
The balding clerk just smirked, leaned close enough for Jamal to smell his stale breath, and said, with chilling indifference, "Go ahead, boy. Nobody cares." This initial, brutal resistance really set an ominous tone for the entire, arduous fight ahead.
Yet, despite the contempt, despite the deliberate obstruction, word of Jamal's audacious filing, it must have spread quickly through the courthouse grapevine, right?
It did. By afternoon, Judge Holt, described as being thoroughly pissed by this unexpected challenge to his authority, caught wind of the appeal. And in a fit of rage, he summoned an emergency hearing.
So Jamal has to go back.
He has to go back. His heart hammering against his ribs, grabs his spiral notebook, crammed with scribbled statutes, highlighted sections of code, and heads back to that fortress-like courthouse. The courtroom was already filled. Not with justice seekers, though, but with board reporters and Holt's cronies, an audience specifically assembled to witness what they presumed would be Jamal's swift and humiliating defeat.
I love the pressure.
Immense. Holt, the undisputed king of these courts, this mountain of a man, 6'4" with a buzz cut and a face carved from granite, swept in, his black robes billowing like a vulture's wings. He'd reigned over the city's legal system for 2 decades. A king who thrived on breaking people like Jamal, relishing every opportunity to demonstrate his absolute power.
And he immediately focuses on Jamal.
Immediately. Fixed Jamal with a stare that could melt steel, his voice thick with scorn as he drawled, "Mr. Carter." He then demanded Jamal explain his foolishness before he would lock you up for disrespect.
And the gallery?
The gallery tittered, a ripple of amusement spreading through the room at the sight of a black teen dare to stand there, presuming to challenge the judge's iron grip.
So Jamal steps up, knees shaking, I imagine.
Knees shaking, a tremor he fought to control, but his spine remained rigidly straight. He clutched his spiral notebook, his only shield, his only weapon against the judge's wrath. His voice cracked on the very first sentence, thin and reedy, as he attempted to explain the flawed trial, the injustice, the new evidence he had.
And Holt just pounces.
Immediately, sensing weakness, sneering, "You sound like a scared little boy playing lawyer. This ain't no school play, sit down." The room erupted in this chorus of cruel laughter, a tide of jeers that burned Jamal's ears.
No, but he doesn't break.
No. Instead, he gripped the podium tighter, forced his voice steady, his resolve hardening with every mocking sound.
And this is where the homework pays off.
This is precisely where Jamal's painstaking meticulousness, his years of quiet study, truly shined. He pushed through the laughter, the jeers, his voice gaining this quiet but undeniable strength. "I've got the law on my side, Your Honor," he asserted. "Section 32 gives me the right to appeal, and I found a mistake in the transcript."
Holt must have scoffed at that.
Totally. Holt, still more amused than genuinely alarmed, scoffed, "A mistake? You're 16, son. You don't know a transcript from a comic book."
But Jamal was prepared. He flipped open his notebook, pointed to a line circled in precise red ink, a crucial detail gleaned from that photographic memory. Page 17, line 42, the prosecution's closing argument ran past the court's deadline.
Oh, why? 0.8 minutes over the allotted time per rule, 6.3 of the state code. That voids the verdict. He then, hands trembling slightly but eyes locked on Holt, slid the physical court transcript across the podium. Irrefutable proof.
The room must have gone silent.
Utterly silent. Every breath held as Holt's granite face shifted, moment by moment, from mocking amusement to pure, unadulterated fury. Jamal, sensing his advantage, pressed on, his voice now strong, unwavering. The law says a timed closing that runs over the allotted time violates Rule 6.3, invalidates the entire trial. You've got to grant a retrial.
And Holt's reaction.
His jaw clenched. A prominent vein pulsed in his thick neck. He slammed the transcript shut with a crack that made Jamal flinch despite his courage. The gallery gasped. Holt leaned forward, eyes blazing, voice dropping to this dangerous, barely audible whisper. "You're a clever little rat, aren't you? Fine. Retrial granted."
He grants it.
He grants it, then hammers the gavel down, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the oppressive silence, and fellows, court's adjourned, get out of my sight.
Wow. A win, but precarious.
Very. And this moment, this reluctant victory forced by a procedural technicality, it raises a critical, unsettling question about the broader justice system, doesn't it? How many seemingly minor procedural errors, these small, easily overlooked details, go unchallenged every single day?
Probably countless.
Exactly. Jamal's almost obsessive meticulousness highlights this chilling vulnerability. Even a tiny procedural oversight, if properly identified and legally significant, can unravel an entire case. Many systems operate on the assumption these things won't be challenged. Jamal's focus didn't just win a retrial. It revealed this hidden pressure point, this Achilles heel.
But the victory, like you said, was immediately tinged with menace. Jamal cracked the wall, but he knew Holt was far from finished.
Terrifyingly right. Within minutes of Jamal leaving the courthouse, that menace became horrifically real. A police cruiser, tires squealing, skidded to a stop inches from his legs. 2 white cops spilled out, faces twisted with menace.
Not a coincidence.
Not even close. The tall one, wiry man with a buzz cut and a scar slicing his left eyebrow, sneered, Well, if it ain't Holt's little lawyer." The shorter, stocky cops circled behind Jamal, their movements coordinated, immediately accusing him of fitting a description: armed and dangerous. A baseless accusation.
Certification.
Pure justification for aggression. Jamal's stomach plummeted. He understood immediately.
Yeah.
This wasn't random. This was Holt's swift, brutal revenge.
And they move fast.
Instantly.
Mm-hmm.
The tall cop slammed Jamal against the cruiser's hood, searing metal burning through his thin jacket. The stocky one snapped handcuffs tight enough to bite into his skin, cutting off circulation. Then, with a sickening sleight of hand, the cop fished a small baggie of weed out of Jamal's pocket, a baggie Jamal had never seen before in his life.
Planted.
Clearly planted. Jamal, even as he was being held down, immediately shouted, his voice hoarse with indignation, "That's not mine, you planted it."
Did they even react?
The tall cop just laughed.
Ah.
A sharp, humorless bark, chillingly echoing Judge Holt's courtroom cackle. They didn't acknowledge his protests, simply threw him roughly into the cruiser's back seat.
And inside the car?
Inside that confined space, the violence began. The stocky cop, identified as Eddie, wasted no time, smashed his knuckles into Jamal's jaw, then his ribs, with a sickening crack that stole his breath. Eddie growled, voice thick with malicious satisfaction. Holt says, "You need a lesson, genius? Think you can embarrass a judge and walk away?" The hits were relentless, a brutal barrage.
Oh my God.
Each one a message from Holt's throne, delivered directly to Jamal's body, meant to break his spirit, teach him a permanent lesson.
And they take him to the precinct.
Yeah, as the cruiser sped towards the precinct, the building itself, a squat brick structure ringed with razor wire, loomed ahead, immediately signaling its true nature as a fortress of fear. Dragged into a grimy interrogation room, Jamal, despite the excruciating pain radiating through his battered body, remained remarkably composed, which is incredible. He calmly but firmly asserted his rights, citing Article 12 State Code. I get a phone call. It speaks volumes not just about his unwavering resolve, but also his profound, almost instinctive understanding of legal procedures, even facing brutal, calculated intimidation.
His legal knowledge was his anchor.
It truly was. Astounding, really.
What this chilling sequence really unpacks for us is a terrifying reality. This isn't merely about a rogue judge anymore, is it?
No, it's way beyond that.
It's about a judge who possesses the profound capacity to weaponize the very institutions meant to uphold the law and protect citizens. It paints this chilling, visceral picture of how power operates in the shadows, using uniformed police officers as personal enforcers, instruments of intimidation and violence.
And then, at his absolute darkest moment, a lifeline appears. Miss Elena. Jamal somehow manages to dial her number. She picked up on the second ring, didn't hesitate, stormed into the precinct like a force of nature. Described as a wirily black woman in her 50s, dreadlocks pulled tight, eyes blazing with fury, she carried a bail receipt, a tangible symbol of freedom, and a glare that made the cops flinch, a testament to her formidable presence.
So this is where the community steps in.
Absolutely. What's truly fascinating here is the crucial, often underappreciated role of community and informal networks when formal systems not only fail, but become instruments of oppression. Mrs. Lena, who holds no official title, no legal degree, acts as this indispensable buffer. providing not just practical aid getting him released, but vital, immediate intelligence against an overwhelmingly powerful adversary.
And she confirms it was Holt.
Immediately. Outside the precinct, her first words confirmed Jamal's darkest suspicions. "They're Holt's." She explained the judge called in a favor the second Jamal left court, orchestrating this reprisal. Then she issued a stark, terrifying warning, her voice heavy with experience. "They'll kill you next time you hear me," highlighting the extreme, life-threatening danger he now faced.
She gets him out of there.
Guides him quickly to her beat-up sedan, seats worn but comforting, drives him to her unassuming shotgun house on the edge of town, a quiet haven away from the city's chaos. There, with steady hands but a voice tight with concern, she patched him up, antiseptics stinging his fresh cuts. She repeated her grim warning, emphasizing Holt's immense power. "Holt's got power you can't imagine, boy."
And Jamal's response?
Battered and bruised, body aching, he clenched his fists, the physical pain grounding him, fueling his resolve. Looked her directly in the eye, his voice determined. "I'll find a way, I always do."
But the threat hasn't gone away.
Not at all. The faint wail of sirens in the distant city, a constant, ominous presence, served as a chilling promise that more, much more, was still to come.
So Jamal wakes up on Miss Alina's couch. He's hurting, obviously.
Every muscle screaming from the brutality, jaw aching, ribs throbbing. But through the physical discomfort, his mind is racing. He knows he has to get back to work for Darius's retrial.
The arson that destroyed the photo evidence, right?
It did. Destroyed his home and the physical photo. But Jamal's photographic memory meant the data was still intact, burned into his mind. Darius at the barbershop, 9:32 p.m., 3 miles from the crime scene, when the cashier claimed the holdup happened at 9:28. So he immediately sets about drafting a new motion to submit new evidence, meticulously reconstructing the lost details from memory.
Incredible resilience.
Truly. By noon, he's ready. New, painstakingly drafted papers in a fresh envelope. He returns to the courthouse.
And this time?
This time, Doris is conspicuously absent. Instead, a younger white man with slicked-back hair and a smirk named Travis is at the counter. Jamal slides the envelope forward, states his purpose with quiet determination. Travis barely glances at it, casually twirling a pen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, his tone is light, almost mockingly polite, but his eyes are cold, filled with dismissive contempt. He sarcastically notes, "Another one, huh? You don't quit, do you, kid?"
Yeah.
Takes the envelope, tosses it carelessly onto a growing pile with a condescending, "Sure thing, lawyer boy, we'll get right on that."
The sarcasm, just another low blow. Jamal leaves, hoping.
Forces himself to turn away, notebook clutched tight, a flicker of fragile hope igniting. But that hope is brutally extinguished by the next morning. Ms. Alina shakes him awake, her face tight with anger and despair. "Your motion's gone," she states flatly. "They say it never made it to the judge."
Gone. Just gone.
Vanished. Jamal bolts upright, heart seizing with dread, immediately calls the courthouse. Travis's voice, oozing cold satisfaction, comes through the phone.
Oh, that must have got lost. Happens all the time with you people. You people. Just blatant.
Unmistakable. A clear racial slur and an admission of deliberate obstruction.
So when we talk about due process, that fundamental legal requirement.
This sequence is chillingly illustrative of how it can be completely undermined. It reveals a systematic, insidious corruption that isn't just about winning a case legally. It's about controlling the flow of information, meticulously ensuring the truth never sees the light of day. It's designed, quite deliberately, to make individuals like Jamal feel utterly powerless, to wear them down until they give up.
Jamal must have been furious.
Hands shaking with incandescent rage, he storms back to the courthouse, voice ringing with righteous indignation, directly accusing Travis of destruction and tampering, citing Section 41 State Code, a clear legal violation.
And Travis!
Travis just laughed, loud and sharp, drawing eyes from the hallway, a public act of defiance. "Prove what?" he scoffed. "Ain't no cameras here. It's your word against mine, and guess who Holt believes?"
Just blatant impunity.
Total impunity. Jamal, chest heaving, every breath a fight against overwhelming despair, still doesn't back down. By afternoon, he's once again standing in Holt's courtroom, battered but unbowed, demanding an immediate investigation into the missing evidence.
The gallery must be growing by now.
Noticeably fuller. Reporters sniffing a bigger story, sensing the rising tension. Holt, his granite face etched with barely controlled fury, immediately launches a counterattack. Threatens contempt of court, a $500 fine payable now or 30 days in lockup if Jamal didn't immediately explain his nonsense. Jamal, a teenager with no job, no money, stands helpless.
But then, An ally.
A surprising pivotal ally emerges. A young reporter, a black woman with braids and a fierce glare named Aisha. She'd been quietly observing. Suddenly shouts, her voice cutting through the tension, "I've got it!"
Yeah.
And without hesitation, steps forward and pays Jamal's fine, allows him to speak, effectively bails him out right there.
Wow. And she starts recording.
Aisha, with remarkable foresight, immediately begins recording Holt's losing it moment, capturing his unhinged rage as Jamal speaks. By nightfall, that video had exploded online.
Hashtags and everything.
Propelled by hashtags like hashtag Justice for Darius and hashtag Holt Exposed, trending across the city, then beyond. This immediate viral spread sparked spontaneous, passionate protests outside the courthouse, chants echoing defiantly through the streets. The power of public outrage ignited.
What this viral moment powerfully highlights, if we look at the bigger picture, it's the immense disruptive power of public exposure. Citizen journalism in the age of instant information.
Exactly. When official channels are corrupted, actively used to suppress truth, the unofficial ones, digital platforms, social media can become the last bastion of accountability. They provide a means for voices to be heard, evidence to be seen, public pressure to be mounted, though, as we'll see, not without their own very real risks.
Jamal had finally struck a nerve. The tide seemed, maybe just for a fleeting moment, to be genuinely turning.
But then, Miss Lena's phone rang again. Her face tightened as she listened. "Holt's calling in muscle," she whispered to Jamal, her voice laced with dread. "Something big's coming."
Muscle? What does that mean?
What came next wasn't just an escalation of legal tactics. It was a terrifying street war. As night fell, police lights began flashing ominously in the distance. But the cops themselves held back, maintaining an ominous stillness that didn't sit right. A clear sign of complicity.
They knew something was up.
Oh, they knew. Then, a pack of pickup trucks roared into view, Confederate flags flapping defiantly from their beds. White men in hoodies and boots poured out, bats and pipes gleaming, emerging like this malevolent, organized militia.
This wasn't just a random clash.
No, the narrative is clear. It was a supremacist mob that carved through the crowd, targeting black faces with savage precision. A clear act of racially motivated violence unleashed.
And Jamal gets caught up in it.
He realizes the immediate danger, tries to escape through the labyrinthine alleys, a desperate attempt to evade the mob. But he's spotted. 5 men peeled off from the main group, separating themselves, aggressively pursuing him. Among them, a hulking man with a shaved head and a swastika tattoo, a chilling symbol of the hate fueling them.
They target him specifically.
Targeted, brutally beaten, kicked, slammed against unforgiving brick walls. They screamed slurs, voices filled with venom, telling him repeatedly, "Holt says you're done." His vision blurred, pain exploding behind his eyes. But in a moment of desperate clarity, he spotted a sewer grate. Clawed at the cold metal and with a superhuman effort, squeezed through the narrow opening, slipped down into the dank tunnel below, escaping into the suffocating darkness beneath the city.
Just survive.
A desperate, painful, deeply harrowing act of survival. He eventually emerged, bleeding but miraculously alive, in a quiet, obscure lot. A fragile and raw victory against overwhelming odds. But the true, devastating cost of his defiance, his audacity to challenge the system, became agonizingly clear by morning. Aisha's crew, bravely filming through the chaos, caught the mob on camera, undeniable visual evidence. But then, the TV news flickered to a breaking story. An image that seared itself into Jamal's mind.
His apartment.
His family apartment. A charred skeleton against the dawn sky had been torched overnight. His mother, innocent in all this, now homeless, stripped of everything she owned.
Oh, God. Direct retaliation.
Direct, brutal, calculated consequence of his actions. A devastating blow meant to break his spirit, force him into submission.
What this horrifying escalation truly unpacks for us is, well, the judge, Holt, wasn't merely manipulating legal texts or procedural rules anymore.
Not even close.
He had completely abandoned any pretense of justice, unleashing paramilitary violence directly targeting innocent families. This profound escalation shows precisely how far those in power, when cornered, will go to maintain their iron grip.
It blurs the lines between legitimate legal authority and outright criminal enterprise, transforms the city into a war zone. The narrative reveals Holt, sitting in his opulent office, watched the fires glow on his screen, a predatory grin splitting his granite face. Then calmly dialed a number, muttering into the phone, "Burning's not enough, finish it." A chilling promise of more terror to come.
Yet even after all that battered, bruised, home destroyed, Jamal refused to quit. His resolve somehow only deepened.
It's almost unbelievable. Miss Lena's phone buzzed again. This time, a new, unexpected flicker of hope. A call from a white guy, a lawyer named Tom Grayson. Claimed he saw Aisha's viral video and wants to help.
Another potential ally.
Seems like it. Tom arrived shortly thereafter. A lanky man in his 30s with sandy hair and a crisp gray suit that screamed money. Stark contrast to Jamal's thrift store attire. Spoke with a smooth professional cadence. Told Jamal he was a damn prodigy, that Holt was just a bully. Added, "I got a soft spot for underdogs, and you're the toughest I've seen." His words were like a balm, offering this sense of legitimate, powerful support.
So they team up.
A new, formidable alliance formed, with Tom's legal polish blending seamlessly with Jamal's raw genius. They began to work. Together, they unearthed what Jamal immediately recognized as gold. Meticulously found a critical police report buried deep in the precinct's digital archive, a document deliberately hidden away.
What did it show?
Timestamp precisely at 9:40 p.m., placing Darius unequivocally at the barbershop during the exact window of the robbery. Tom, with his professional insight, confirmed the corruption. Holt's crew hid this, probably paid off the clerk to lose it from the physical file and bury it digitally.
Finally, irrefutable proof.
Seemingly irrefutable, this new evidence brought a surge of real, tangible hope, a belief that true justice might finally be within reach.
So the retrial happens quickly.
Just 2 days later, the courthouse was packed to the rafters, news cameras rolling, capturing every moment for a captivated public. Holt swept onto the bench, his granite face a mask of barely contained fury. Eyes locked on Jamal with familiar malice. But then his gaze flickered to Tom with a distinct hint of unease, a subtle crack in his otherwise impenetrable facade.
Interesting. Jamal presents the evidence.
Jamal, wearing a borrowed, ill-fitting blazer that seemed to swallow him, stood at the podium with renewed confidence. Presented the new, irrefutable evidence, citing Section 34, subsection C of State Code, detailing its relevance. Tom then stepped up, smooth as silk, corroborating the police report with a sworn affidavit from the barber, a witness previously dismissed. The room buzzed with anticipation. It genuinely seemed they had Holt cornered. Victory felt imminent.
This is where the trust issue comes in, right?
This moment, where an apparent ally emerges from the established legal system, it compels us to ask that crucial, unsettling question. How do we truly assess trustworthiness, especially when help appears from unexpected places within seemingly compromised institutions? Tom's subsequent betrayal highlights a chilling vulnerability within the system itself. Even apparent helpers can be insidious agents of the opposition, deliberately preying on desperation.
So just when they think they've won?
Just as Jamal, and indeed everyone in that courtroom, believed they had finally won, the meticulously set trap sprang shut. Tom, maintaining his smooth-as-silk demeanor, first presented the evidence, giving this cruel semblance of legitimacy. Then, in a shocking, breathtaking pivot, he unveiled a new set of documents, declaring to the stunned courtroom, "These documents show Jamal Carter fabricated the police report, forged timestamps, fake signatures. He's been playing us all."
What? No!
A devastating, calculated lie designed to utterly discredit Jamal. The room erupted in chaos. Jamal spun to Tom, voice cracking with disbelief and raw fury. "What? That's a lie. You set me up." Tom, the picture of cold composure, avoided his gaze, cool as ice, simply stated, "Sorry, kid, truth's the truth."
And Holt?
Holt, seizing the moment, hammered the gavel down, declared the trial immediately suspended and Jamal under arrest for fraud. As bailiffs lunged forward to seize him, Jamal, still reeling, shouted directly at Tom, "You set me up!"
Huh?
Tom merely shrugged, adjusting his tie with an almost imperceptible smirk, and delivered the ultimate chilling punchline. "Holt's the boss, kid. You should have known."
Oh my God, the betrayal, that hope just gone.
Turned to bitter ash in his mouth. Jamal was immediately thrown into a solitary holding cell, a concrete box stinking of piss and despair, a horrifying 6x8 tomb of isolation. This was the ultimate test.
Not just physical, but mental.
Exactly. Mental fortitude. 2 white guards, ominously named Scarface and Batman, loomed over him, faces twisted with cruel hunger, wasted no time revealing their intent. "Holt's punching bag," they sneered, voices dripping contempt, asserting, "Rights down here, Holt's the law."
And the torture begins.
Immediately, brutal, relentless, fists, boots, a cattle prod sparking blue, and ice-cold water akin to waterboarding. They screamed racial slurs. "R thinks he's tough," taunted him with the bitter truth. "Holt owns you now," a systematic campaign of physical and psychological torment designed to break him completely.
What this harrowing ordeal profoundly reveals about the human spirit is, well, it's astounding. It's a stark, visceral reminder that even in the darkest, most brutal conditions imaginable, the mind's capacity for resistance, for strategic thinking, for sheer survival can persist, even flourish.
Jamal's response to this torture is nothing short of incredible. He'd stopped counting the bruises, stopped feeling the pain as anything but fuel, transforming the agony into relentless motivation. He meticulously memorized their patterns. Scarface favored his right fist. Batman limped on his left knee. He constantly recited laws in his head, Section 12, Section 19, not just for sanity, but to retain his mental acuity, always observing, analyzing, even in the throes of agonizing pain.
His resilience, his capacity to extract information and plan his counterstrike amidst such brutality, it's a testament to the indomitable power of the human will.
On the sixth day of his torment, a small yet profoundly significant glimmer of hope appeared. A new guard, younger and black, appeared, carrying a tray, conspicuously devoid of the usual hose or prod. As he handed Jamal the meager meal, he slipped him a burner phone, whispering urgently, "I heard the tape. Holt's dirty. You're right."
Someone on the inside.
A crack in the wall. Jamal's pulse spiked with adrenaline and renewed purpose. Immediately called Aisha, his voice a ragged gasp, barely coherent through the pain. "Barely alive. Solitary. They're torturing me. Waterboarding, prods, everything." A desperate cry for help, to expose the truth.
And then he makes his move.
The counterstrike. A moment of extraordinary courage and strategic cunning. Jamal, utilizing a dented scrap of metal, a spoon inadvertently left by a sloppy guard, sprang into action. With a sudden, desperate surge, drove the spoon's edge directly into Batman's bad knee. A sickening pop as the guard howled in pain, collapsing. In that crucial instant, Jamal snatched the guard's baton, cracking it across his skull with brutal efficiency.
Chaos erupts.
Alarms immediately blared, but the raging thunderstorm outside, thunder crashing, drowned the chaos, providing a cloak of much-needed cover. Guided solely by his photographic memory and intimate knowledge of the precinct's blueprints, Jamal bolted. Navigated through dimly lit corridors, found a secluded supply closet, then a cramped crawl space, before finally emerging into the torrential rain and newfound freedom behind the precinct.
He escaped.
He escaped. What's profoundly fascinating here is this cyclical, symbiotic nature of information and power, especially in a corrupt system. Jamal's horrific ordeal, instead of breaking him, became leverage, potent evidence. And the internal dissent within the system, however small, the Black Guard, Miss Lena's cop friend, provided the critical crack, the vital intelligence needed to counter the overwhelming force of the cabal.
He gets back to Mrs. Lena.
Made it back, bleeding and exhausted, to her safe house, where she delivered the truly explosive truth. Holt's running a racket framing black kids like Darius, pocketing cash from private prisons. She'd heard it directly from a cop friend tonight.
And she had proof.
The most damning piece of all. She held a recorder with names, dates, money. Irrefutable proof of the judge's vast criminal enterprise. Pure dynamite, ready to blow the lid off the entire conspiracy.
So Aisha broadcasts the torture audio.
The recording of Jamal's torture, raw and agonizing, broadcast by Aisha's crew, exploded online. Set the nation ablaze, his voice, rasping, barely audible, crying, "They're torturing me! Holt's orders don't let him win!" fueled a national outcry of unprecedented scale.
Millions protesting.
Protests surged nationwide. Millions taking to the streets, social media alight with demands to save Jamal. The sheer, overwhelming public pressure finally forced the federal authorities to act, compelled by the undeniable evidence and collective rage. Jamal was freed, eventually released from custody, emerging not just as a survivor, but a hero forged in pain, a symbol of resistance.
But just as they taste this hard-won triumph,
The ultimate, most devastating vengeance struck. Aisha's phone buzzed, her face blanching as she read the message. Darius had been stabbed, critical in prison.
yeah, Holt's crew.
A final, brutal act of retribution. Jamal, heart seizing with terror, rushed to the hospital. But it was too late. Darius, his life brutally cut short, flatlined. His last words whispered to Jamal with his final fading breath were, "You're winning, little man. Don't stop."
Oh, God, the cost.
A profound moment of sacrifice. An unbearable cost for seeking justice.
This is where the narrative pivots, becoming almost unbearable in its intensity. This isn't just about winning a legal battle, a verdict. It's about the profound, unbearable, agonizing cost of that victory.
Holt's vengeance wasn't just political. It was deeply personal and devastating. A chilling reminder that some wounds, some losses, never truly heal, no matter the triumph achieved in a courtroom.
And Jamal, grieving, goes straight to the retrial.
Immediately. Battered, bruised, consumed by grief, he went straight to the emotionally charged retrial for Darius. The courthouse was packed to bursting. a palpable sense of a coming reckoning hanging heavy in the air.
He presents the evidence of Darius's murder.
Stands at the podium, face etched with unspeakable pain, voice steady with purpose. First presents the hospital records, confirming a guard's initials on the transfer order, undeniable proof of the prison system's complicity. Holt, true to form, dismisses it with a sneer. A thug got what he deserved.
But Jamal has the recorder.
The ultimate smoking gun. Pulled out the small recorder Ms. Lena had given him, pressed play. Holt's unmistakable voice filled the courtroom. 10 grand per head. Black teens priority.
The reaction.
The room erupted. Gasps. Shouts. The audio confirmation of his vile scheme sending shockwaves through the gallery. Jamal, with righteous fury, pushed Holt, directly accusing him. You ordered Darius stabbed to shut me up. Admit it, you killed my brother.
And Holt snaps.
In that single electrifying moment, Holt's carefully constructed granite mask shattered. Completely lost control. With a primal roar, hurled the gavel across the room, it splintering against the wall, bellowed, "You little bastard!" And then a horrifying display of unchecked rage lunged over the bench, explicitly confessing his crime, revealing the full, unadulterated depth of his malice. All on live television.
Oh my God.
Bayless immediately swarmed, grabbing Holt, dethroned on live TV, his reign of terror collapsing in front of millions. In the stunned silence, the jury forewoman, voice clear, unwavering, immediately declared, Darius Carter's cleared, not guilty.
Justice, official justice.
But forged in blood an unimaginable loss. This powerful climactic scene embodies a fundamental principle. Transparency, however painful, however difficult, is the ultimate weapon against deep-seated corruption. The public, empowered by direct, undeniable evidence audio recordings, viral videos, forced in accountability the system itself stubbornly refused to provide, highlights the indispensable importance of documentary recording disseminating truth.
A victory, but profoundly hollow. Jamal barely processes the verdict, mind consumed by grief, kneeling by his brother's body. And then,
as if the universe itself was responding to Holt's unleashed fury, the ground shook violently. A deafening blast ripped through the air, shattering glass at the hospital, smoke billowed from the courthouse. A bomb's echo.
a bomb.
Dozens dead, the report screamed. The city plunged into chaos. On the television feed, Holt, now cuffed, secured in a police van, was seen, chillingly, grinning. A predator unshaken. He had planned this massacre to punish the city that dared defy him. A final devastating act of pure, unadulterated
The
malice.
city just burns. This reveals the problem is bigger than Holt.
Far, far bigger than just a single judge's personal vendetta. Amidst the chaos, Jamal and Aisha, driven by unshakable resolve, managed to find Holt's hidden network, meticulously detailed in his encrypted emails. These weren't just personal communications. They exposed payoffs to cops, explicit orders to frame kids, a chilling hit list with Darius's name featured prominently, and, critically, a damning memo to a private prison CEO, 10 grand per head, black teens priority.
So it's a whole network.
What's truly fascinating here is how the narrative expands from individual corruption to reveal this deeply entrenched systemic problem, transcends a single bad actor. This isn't about bad apples, it's about a whole damn machine. What the narrative chillingly refers to as a shadow cabal. This network consisted of powerful individuals, judges, CEOs, even a senator's aide, all working in concert, weaponizing the law for immense profit. Highlights the terrifying scale of what Jamal was truly up against.
And they had a plan if exposed.
The emails contained a clear directive. Burn it all, leave no trace. Revealing their desperate plan to annihilate evidence. As fires gutted downtown, snipers picking off anyone who dared stand tall, rogue police turned to protect their paymasters. Aisha, with immense bravery, uploaded the incriminating files. Newsfeed screamed, Holt's cabal exposed. Finally, the feds swarmed the city, compelled by the undeniable evidence and public outcry.
But in the chaos, Darius's body.
Another cruel blow. Darius's body disappeared from the hospital, snatched by Holt's ruthless hit squad. But Jamal, guided by his photographic memory and sharpened instincts, tracked them relentlessly. The digital trail from Holt's emails led him to a sprawling mansion 5 miles north, a coded address tied to cabal orders, a secret lair.
He goes in.
Crept inside, found Darius miraculously, agonizingly, still clinging to life, chained in a hidden room, and then the ultimate, most devastating betrayal unfolded. A figure emerged from the shadows. Malcolm Carter, Jamal's own uncle.
His uncle.
What this final gut-wrenching revelation truly unpacks is the cruelest twist of all. The enemy wasn't just a corrupt judge or a faceless racist system. It was family. Malcolm revealed himself as the cabal's kingpin, his voice chillingly devoid of emotion as he confessed, I built this. Holt, the prisons, the profits, all mine. laid bare the dark, insidious truth. Blood's cheap, power's not. A monstrous declaration that loyalty, familial bonds meant nothing compared to ambition and control.
And he tries to kill Jamal.
Without hesitation, raised a gun, aiming it directly at Jamal, intent on silencing him forever.
But Darius...
Just as Malcolm was about to fire, in a final, incredible surge of defiance and love, Darius, despite being mortally wounded, chained, threw himself at his uncle. Taking the bullet meant for Jamal. His last words, whispered with his final precious breath, were a command, a plea, a legacy. Finish it.
Oh my God, a brother's sacrifice.
Profound, underscoring the deeply personal and horrifying nature of this battle, where a brother's love became the ultimate shield.
What this concludes, in a way, it raises that critical, enduring question for us. What happens when the hero succeeds in one battle, only to discover the war they've committed to is exponentially larger, more deeply entrenched, and far more personal than they could have ever imagined?
Jamal, clutching a USB, he'd ripped from the torturer's pocket a flash drive containing secrets, codes, the Cabal's heart, dragged Darius's body, escaping the mansion as it burned around them. The city still smoldered, Holt's unrepentant grin flickering on every screen, a symbol of defeated power. But now, Malcolm's shadow loomed, revealed as the true ultimate enemy.
So his journey shifts.
From personal justice to the monumental task of dismantling an entire deeply entrenched system, showcasing the continuous unending nature of fighting for true, lasting change. Battered, grieving, with nothing left but his burning resolve, Jamal made an unending vow to dismantle them all, transforming into a lone warrior with nothing left but a fight that would never end.
So what does this truly mean for us as we reflect on Jamal Carter's profound and frankly harrowing story? This deep dive reveals the raw, unyielding truths about extraordinary resilience in the face of relentless, systemic opposition. His photographic memory, his self-taught legal brilliance, they were undeniably his initial weapons, right? They gave him the tools to fight. But it was his unwavering will, forged in the searing fire of injustice and profound loss, that was the true, enduring fuel for his impossible battle.
Yeah, and beyond just the individual triumph, Jamal's journey forces us to acknowledge how individual courage, coupled with strategic knowledge, can expose layers of corruption that run far deeper, are far more institutionally entrenched than we might initially perceive. It moves beyond the concept of a single bad apple to reveal this vast, hydra-headed network profiting from injustice. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth about the intersection of power, profit, and the law.
And critically, we witness the brutal, almost unbearable costs of that fight. Miss Alina, Darius, the family home reduced to ashes, and the gut-wrenching, soul-crushing betrayal from both apparent allies and even, most painfully, family. Justice, in this narrative, demands an almost unbearable price, leaving scars that might never fully heal no matter the victory achieved.
And critically, it highlights that even with a win in one battle, the war often just expands, revealing the true scale of the problem. As Malcolm Carter's Cabal demonstrates, the fight doesn't end with one arrest or one verdict. It transforms. It becomes about dismantling an entire, deeply ingrained machine, not just a single operator. The fight for true change is a continuous, evolving process, demanding an unyielding spirit.
Jamal, clutching that USB in a city still smoldering from explosions, makes a vow to fight on, alone, against an unseen network of power. It leaves us with a truly powerful question for you, the listener. If your pursuit of justice, your quest to right an undeniable wrong, led to such profound personal devastation if the cost was everything you held dear, every loved one, your very home, would you still pick up that fight? And what profound responsibility do we, as informed citizens, truly have when systems are so clearly, demonstrably rigged against the powerless?
This story compels us to look inward, to question who truly holds power in our world, to challenge the fundamental assumptions that underpin our most sacred institutions, and to consider the profound, complicit implications when silence allows such pervasive darkness to flourish. What does justice truly mean when its very pursuit demands such an unimaginable, continuous sacrifice?